Dungeons, temples, or whatever you like to call them, they are likely to be the most important part of any Zelda game, and for me at least, the most important part of any dungeon is the music. It allows me to understand within the first few seconds of entering the dungeon the theme, the atmosphere, and the raw emotion of the place. While we in the UK have been in quarantine, I've been replaying all the main series Zelda games and come to realise how much of a part the music plays in all of them. So here is my top 10 list of all Zelda dungeon themes. At number 10 we have the Palace theme from Zelda 2. This is one of those songs that you cannot help but sing along to as you're walking through the cramped corridors, up and down the list and trying to desperately find another P-bag to level up. For me, Zelda 2 has always been the hardest game in the series, and the hardest areas have always been the game's palaces. But this amazing piece of 8-beat music makes it worthwhile when you finally get to the boss after all the rage quits. At number 9 we have the Cave of Flames from the MINISH cap. The MINISH cap is definitely the most underrated Zelda game and had some of the best music in any of the main series games. The dungeons are also some of the most overlooked in the series. My personal favourite is the Cave of Flames. It's the second dungeon in the game and fire dungeons have always been my favourite. The deep drum bashes all throughout the track make me think of Goron City from Ocarina of Time. There is also a certain build-up of notes in the track that make me think there is always something around the next corner, and that keeps me on my toes while I'm playing throughout this dungeon. Number 8 is the Temple of Time from Twilight Princess. This is one of my favourite dungeons in the series. It's basically a very linear fetch quest throughout an ancient, long since inhabited temple, and the music reflects that. It is almost very mystical and echoes along the endless stone corridors and chambers. All throughout the music there are whispers. This could be the gargantuan stone statue that you have to escort back to the main chamber calling you to its location, or the dungeon's boss egging you on. This all makes for an eerie experience, but it makes you want to press on and get to the mirror shard. Number 7 is the Woodfall Temple from Majora's Mask. This is the first dungeon in the game, and as follows tradition in Zelda games, it is a forest themed dungeon. But the music for this dungeon genuinely makes you feel like the place is alive. There are birds screeching and what sounds like a woman singing vocals for some sort of tiki ritual, and that is backed up by the fact that the boss is a giant tiki man. The whole song just feels like it would be played at some kind of tiki themed festival. At number 6 we have the Tower of Spirits from Spirit Tracks. The first few seconds of the track make you feel like you are genuinely entering a massive building. The music echoes along the winding staircase and down the long corridors and passageways. It honestly makes you feel like you're on an epic adventure to save the land and bring peace back. Number 5 is the Skyview Temple from Skyward Sword. When I first heard this track, it instantly made me feel like this place is an ancient abandoned place of worship being reclaimed by nature. The slow wind instruments make you feel like this place used to have some great meaning to the people who once lived here. This contrasts with the background string instruments that make you feel like you are being watched by the dungeon's boss, which turns out to be one of the main villains of the game. I don't think I have ever played a game where the first boss is also one of the forms of the final boss. It genuinely makes you feel like you have to keep going because you know who you're up against, and he now knows how strong you really are. Number 4. LORULE Castle, A Link Between Worlds. I personally think that this is definitely the best theme from any final dungeon in the Zelda series, because it takes other themes from the series and mashes them together into a gargantuan theme. You have the original Hyrule Castle theme from A Link to the Past, Ganon's theme from Ocarina of Time, and Zelda's theme. It gives it just the perfect orchestrated soundtrack. I would also say this is the best track in any Zelda game that portrays raw emotion. You are in a fallen kingdom that has nothing to lose. They will do whatever they can to reclaim their fallen glory, and you see that when you are walking throughout the dungeon. You also hear what seems to be the sound of footsteps of an army clad in chainmail, ready to defend their castle from an invading army. Number 3, the Spirit Temple for Ocarina of Time. To me, this track sounds like a mixture of Arabian and Egyptian music. It sounds like you're an explorer in a recently discovered ancient Egyptian tomb, walking on ground that no one has walked on for thousands of years. The music makes the dungeon seem absolutely massive and never-ending, like the Minotaur's labyrinth from Greek mythology. Also, those 2 pots at the beginning can kiss my ass. Number 2, City in the Sky, Twilight Princess. I have always genuinely hated this temple, not for how ridiculously long it is or how hard it is, but because of the music. It is one of those rare few cases where you're listening to it and the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. This definitely isn't a scary or horror dungeon like the Shadow Temple or Bottom of the Well from Ocarina of Time, but is definitely very unnerving and makes you uncomfortable when you're listening to it. Whenever I play through Twilight Princess, I always hate it when I get to City in the Sky because of the music, so when playing through this temple I always mute or turn down my TV. The dungeon itself is very well designed with good puzzles and you're not scratching your head too often thinking where the hell do I go? But the music is just something else, and that is one thing I love about this game. And finally, at number 1, we have the inverted stone tower temple from Majora's Mask. You probably thought for number 1 I would have chosen the original stone tower temple music, but personally I find the remix from when you turn the temple upside down to be more sickening and almost makes me feel sick. The once calming song has now been literally turned on its head along with the temple. The soothing wind instruments have been replaced with sharp string instruments, and the sound at the beginning just makes me feel very unnerved. After getting the light arrows, you go back to the beginning of the dungeon and shoot the arrow at the switch to turn the temple upside down. This is when the music takes on a more sinister tone and you hear what you're hearing now. You still hear the wind instruments in the inverted track, but they feel out of place and are out of key to make you feel even more uneasy. You hear the sound of wind all throughout this track and it makes you feel that you're in a place that is truly empty and dead. So there we have it, that was my top 10 Zelda dungeon themes. Please remember that this is my own personal list and our views will probably most likely differ, but please also put your own list down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching.